Say who is Doctor Who? Where is he from? What does he do? They wonder who is Doctor Who? So I ask you, who's Doctor Who?
Welcome back to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. I am Larry Van Mersbergen, your host, and I've been collecting Doctor Who since 1981. I've been watching the series since 1975. In 1985, I had this crazy idea to start a Doctor Who store, which I called Bundles from Britain. It was in the Chicago area, and it only lasted for a few years, and I sold off my share to my partner at the time. Well, a few years ago, I picked up a book called Red, White, and Who, the story of Doctor Who in America, written by some very good friends of mine. And lo and behold, on page 384, Bundles from Britain is listed as one of the stores of the era. So I feel very proud to be part of that history. Of course, the best way to become a collector is, of course, to become a dealer. But you don't have to be a dealer to be a collector. Welcome to the podcast that deals exclusively with Doctor Who collecting of memorabilia, merchandise, materials, props, films, everything that has to do with the series Doctor Who. Please buy the book, Red, White, and Who, and it's available from ATB Publishing, and you can get that on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. Come say hello to me at the largest Doctor Who event in the Midwest, the Chicago TARDIS Convention, now in its 20th year, this Thanksgiving weekend at the Westin Hotel in Lombard. Here are the guest lineups. This is just a highlight. You can get the full information at chicagotardis.com. But this year we have Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor. I'm going to say this name, hopefully get it right. Tosin Cole, who plays Ryan Sinclair from the current series. My good friend Katie Manning, who played Jo Grant from the Jon Pertwee era, Louise Jameson, who played Leela in the Tom Baker era, and also John Leeson, the voice of K9, and not officially announced, but I have it on good authority that Fraser Hines will make another appearance at this convention. Another podcast I want to give a major shout out to is the Target Book Club podcast, hosted by my good friend Tony Witt. It's also on iTunes, and I have been a guest on one episode and 2 upcoming episodes. I was a guest on The Mind of Evil, which airs now. You can get that right now on iTunes. Pardon the audio quality. Unfortunately, we had trouble with the Skype audio as I was remote, but you could still hear it pretty well if you listen. My next appearance will be on Day of the Daleks, which I'll be in studio with Tony Witt and the gang. And I will be at the live taping at Chicago TARDIS with the taping of The Three Doctors. He's doing this incredible thing of documenting the Target books in story order, which is interesting because the books were not written in story order. So, for instance, the book The Claws of Axos was written in 1975, and The Mind of Evil was written in 1985. So some things were quite different. Our theme song, by the way, is Who's Doctor Who by Barry Mason and Les Reed, performed by Fraser Hines, who played Jamie McCrimmon in 113 Doctor Who episodes, making him the longest-running character on Doctor Who and a good friend of the podcast. And again, you can meet him in Chicago at Chicago TARDIS. Consider becoming a friend of the podcast. Publishing a podcast does have its expenses, And so I hope you can help us out with as little as a $5 subscription. The podcast will always be free, but we're always looking for help in that area. You can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, all one word. And I always thank my patrons in the podcast.
Sad, really, isn't it? People spend all their time making nice things, and other people come along and break them.
Collection protection. I want to address protecting your W.H. Allen hardbacks. Now, W.H. Allen produced hardcover editions of the Target novelizations starting back in 1974 with the Auton invasion and taking that well through the Sylvester McCoy era. The books are all basically the same size. And so the only bag that I found that fit, you can get at Bags Unlimited, and you can find them at bagsunlimited.com. The product code is SPJ, And the bags are 6 1/8 inches by 10, and you can get a 100-pack. The prices change, so I'm not going to quote a price. But anyway, the bag will fit your WHL and hardcover perfectly. There is no flap, but there's enough excess bag to fold over and tape and keep those bags completely, keep those books, completely protected from dust, the elements, and yellowing. And Bags Unlimited, by the way, is the best company for archival materials. They sell things to store things for long periods of time. So you can find them at Bags Unlimited. They are not a sponsor. This is my own opinion on this. So if you have another place that you use for bags, please let us know. You can find us on our Facebook page at Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. And don't forget our website, DoctorWhoCollectors.com. And we're also on Twitter as well.
Oh, look, rocks!
Now, today, I want to talk about an issue of Doctor Who magazine that just came out. It is the July edition, and one of the biggest, complaints about Doctor Who collectors in the United States is that they'll release something only in England, and they'll never get a chance to exporting it to the United States, or it's limited to one store in England because they had a deal with them. In this case, we have the Doctor Who Deluxe Edition magazine issue number 539, July 2019. Let me explain. This is the press release I have on this. Doctor Who magazine issue 539 limited deluxe edition. It comes in a oversized cardboard printed version of the cover with some goodies packed inside. The issue 539 is available as a strictly limited deluxe edition exclusive to W.H. Smith, which must be a store, priced at £9.99 or $12.62. In addition to the latest issue of Doctor Who magazine, the deluxe edition includes an exclusive vinyl EP, which is a small record, featuring rare and bonus tracks from The Evil of the Daleks. More about that later. A 28-page supplement about the making of the 13th Doctor's episodes, packed full of new information and previously unseen pictures. Downloads from BBC Audio and Big Finish. I'll get more into that when I walk through the packet. A Doctor Who bookmark, and more. The issue of the magazine is basically issue 539 of the Doctor Who magazine. I did read through it. It's a very good read. If you're not, by the way, I know it's a very costly subscription in the United States, but you can sometimes find these at Barnes & Noble and other places where magazines are imported. Inside the magazine, just to give you a hint as to what's in here, if you haven't read it already, the exclusive interview with Jodie Whittaker. It says the only interview that they're getting from her. The latest production notes from showrunner Chris Chibnall. Former Dr. David Tennant talks about Jodie Whittaker. David Tennant has a new podcast out there. You can find that. Howard Burden recalls designing costumes with 3 different doctors. The second part of the candid interview with the 80s script director Eric Sayward. What topped the Doctor Who magazine season poll and the results. No spoilers here. I'll let you read the magazine. We talked to the team behind the Blu-ray edition of The Planet of the Daleks, which I'm excited about. That will be coming out very soon. The Fact of Fiction explores the 2005 story The Long Game. Eric Sayward previews his novelizations of Resurrection and Revelation of the Daleks, which were not released prior to this. Is Doctor Who a kids show? The Time Team decides. How to create the second Doctor's cosmic hobo style. Every convention I go to, the Patrick Troughton Doctor is the most innovative costumes I've seen, with the checkered trousers, the coat, and the blue shirt and all that. It's just really amazing. And the final part of Herald of Madness, a comic strip adventure featuring the 13th Doctor. So obviously you have to read previous issues of the magazine to get that. Also, the Blogs of Doom, audio reviews, previews, news, prize-winning competitions, and much, much more. So let's start with what's inside the deluxe edition. I did order 3 copies. The first copy I got from eBay was pretty much in bad shape. I was really disappointed. The corners were bent. It was not packed very well. And the seller was very gracious and offered a full refund without having me return it, which I give that person 5 stars and kudos, because that's standing behind your product. The second one I got also came not in mint condition, and that seller did not want to honor any kind of agreement. So unfortunately, you get the good and the bad out there. And I have a third copy that arrived in pristine mint condition, where it wasn't even sealed. The adhesive hadn't been pulled, so it must be directly from the publisher. So I was very happy. That one, of course, has been bagged and put on the shelf. Anyway, inside we do find a bookmark. The bookmark is on one side is for Revelation of the Daleks, Beware the Hands That Heal, and on the back side, Resurrection of the Daleks, The Universe is at War, Action Takes Courage. It's a promo for the new BBC book editions by Eric Sayward, which they talk about in the magazine. It's a really nice bookmark. I know there's a lot of visual elements that I have to talk through since we don't have a video. I have been talking about possibly doing a YouTube channel, but we'll see how this goes. And we'll see we'll see what happens next. The next thing, of course, is we've got an ad here for the Daleks Master Plan on vinyl. The deluxe edition is on translucent blue, and the exclusive edition is orange splatter. I bought 2 copies of this on vinyl. One is still in the original packing. It hasn't been opened. The other one I did open. I forgot to. I'll do that one on another episode to go through how that one goes. I don't know which one I got because you could get that on. By the way, all the vinyl you can get from BBC Audio is at amazon.co.uk. And by the way, if you're an Amazon customer, and most of us are, your Amazon US login will work on any of the Amazon sites in England, in France, Germany, Japan, and you can still buy from them. Just pay a little extra for shipping, obviously, but you can still get all this wonderful stuff. And on the back of the card is the upcoming vinyl, which I have 2 copies on its way, for The Evil of the Daleks. LP1 is presented with a unique Emperor Dalek etched reverse on the exclusive edition, or a TARDIS etched reverse on the deluxe edition. I think the difference is about $50 between the two. And it's 4 heavyweight vinyl in 2 different colors, Scaro Swirl or Translucent Red. Patrick Troughton as the Doctor in this 7-part Lost Adventure. Very cool. You can also get that pre-ordered. It's available for pre-order on amazon.co.uk. And next is a small EP, which I'm going to explain. That's called Extended Play. It's if you're familiar with records, and I apologize to the millennials out in my audience, records were at 12 inches for a full album and 7 inches for a 45 or a single. Well, this is a 7-inch record, plays at 33 1/3, and it has on the first half, and we're going to, by the way, at the end of the podcast, you're going to hear a little bit of this record, so stay tuned. We're going to, it has the excerpt from The Evil of the Daleks that was a repeat broadcast on June the 8th, 1968. If you remember, when Zoe comes into the TARDIS, she gets a preview of what it would like to be in the TARDIS, and then they replay The Evil of the Daleks. Unfortunately, only 1 episode exists of that story. I hope they animate it. That's my personal opinion. But this it's a beautiful little record here, very rare and exclusive to this magazine, although you might find a collector out there who's willing to sell you just the record. But keep in mind, there's probably somebody who's getting a deluxe edition minus the record. I've heard of that happening. Next, you get a free download from Big Finish. Big Finish is a huge sponsor of Doctor Who magazine. They take out 5 full-page ads, and you can scan the QR code on the back of this little thing to download 4 free adventures from Big Finish, which is a great deal. And on that note, there's also a little ad here for BBC Audio, where you can download the book Doctor Who and the Auton Invasion for free. This is the one narrated by the late Carolyn John, who played Liz Shaw in that first story, the first John Pertwee adventure. And I think it's a great story. I actually have listened to it, and it's really well done. And it's a good story. If you haven't watched it, the first John Pertwee story is a very good story, in my opinion. But you can get the download for free. And, of course, it's advertising the audiobooks for Resurrection of the Daleks, which will be read by Terry Malloy, who played Davros. Terminus, the Lost TV episodes, Volume 2, including The Master Plan, Massacre, Celestial Toymaker, and The Seeds of Doom, read by Michael Kilgariff. So some great stuff. 300 audiobooks available in CD and download from BBC Audio. These are all still in print. And I talk about that on the Target Book Club podcast. The Mind of Evil was a new purchase, and they actually used the John Pertwee logo on the cover, which I think would have been great if they did that with the books. And then the other part here is a small additional magazine on the making of Series 11, which features the current TARDIS crew on the front cover. And it has a production timeline for each of the stories so far, from The Woman Who Fell to Earth all the way to Resolution. And there are some great photos in here. There's some good stories about the making of, some discussions with some of the super celebrities that appeared in the series. And it's really quite interesting and very, very good stuff. And of course, the magazine itself. So that's the entire deluxe edition. So what do you think you will pay for it? Well, I said that what I said was the sale price was £9.99 or $12.62. eBay sellers are asking $44 or more. And I've been getting complaints from people who write to our podcast to say, these guys in England, they're buying these books or magazines for $1, $2, or $9 and selling them for $50 or $60. And that's just plain wrong. I negotiate whenever possible, and I'm not afraid to walk away from something. That's why I have a segment of the podcast that I call the most outrageous price. And I think that's something you need to do, is know what your limit is. It's like, if you're a gambler, hopefully you know when to stop. But if you're a collector and you're willing to pay big money for something, then that's something you need to do, or you kind of need to know your budget, obviously. So that is the Doctor Who magazine issue 539 limited deluxe edition. Copies are available on eBay anyway, starting at $44. If you want to open it up, it doesn't matter what the condition is. If you're looking to preserve it, I always like to preserve at least one and have another one that I can look at. That's just my personal preference as a collector. Obviously, your ways better. And by the way, the bag that I used to put this in was an LP bag, a bag for a record, 12 inches long, and I had a little bit of extra to fold over and tape over, just to protect the outside. Okay, on to the most outrageous offer. Since the last taping of the last episode, I look for things that are a little bit overpriced or possibly beyond the price of what the book may actually be worth. So this time, the award for the most outrageous offer for a Doctor Who collectible goes to an eBay seller, and I will not identify the seller. You can probably find this on eBay. They're selling a Dutch copy of Doctor Who and the Daleks, which is a hardcover book. It was published in 1965, for $715. The description says the book is in good condition, which means it's not anywhere near mint, or very good. It says there's a big crease on the front cover, loose pages, some tears in the binding. And I honestly think the book is probably worth maybe $200 at best. So I'm gonna vote. My vote on this is that it will not sell. And I realize that every seller has the right to demand their own price, but that book will not be entering my collection anytime soon. If you see a Doctor Who item or a Doctor Who related item that is priced as you think to be way too high, let us know on our Facebook page at Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, and be sure to like our page and follow along. I have lots of information about what's new and what's coming out, and maybe even ways to get some of these limited edition things that can only be found in England, and help you find a way to get those. So anyway, thank you for listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. We're going to close with the recording that was included with the deluxe edition, which is going to be, you're going to hear the excerpt from Evil of the Daleks, episode 1, and a Dalek voice section. Basically, this was, according to the Dalek voice session, was recorded for the Power of the Daleks, but also used in Evil of the Daleks. So this is a little bit of like a fly on the wall from the actual recording session. But I'm not going to give away the whole album. I think we need to leave some to the imagination. But side A has the finale of Evil of the Daleks without narration. So here I present to you 2 excerpts from this little album that comes with the deluxe edition. I'm Larry Van Mersbergen for the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, and keep collecting.
This is BBC One.
Now, as I remember, Zoe, it all started when Jamie and I discovered somebody making off with the TARDIS.
But what about those Daleks you showed me?
Now, we're coming to them, Zoe. Just let me show you the story from the beginning.
Episode 6, Telecine 2. Otto!